All right, welcome, Byron and Kathy. Great to have you join us for the TVB Next conference. We're here to talk about some of your backgrounds, how you got started in the industry. You've both created significant careers and, of course, have different experiences. Byron, why don't you start off? Just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and how you started in broadcast, in entertainment, and give a little bit of background.
Well, first of all, Eric, thank you for having me. Look, I'm very blessed, very fortunate. My mother, I always say, my mom got pregnant with me when she was 16 years old and had me 17 days after her 17th birthday in Detroit, Michigan. And we came out to LA for a 2-week vacation to get away from the riots of Detroit. And we ended up staying. And for quite a while, did a lot of sofa surfing, sleeping on people's sofas and sleeping on the floors. And I was really fortunate. My mother ended up getting into UCLA and getting her master's degree in cinema TV production. And she ended up getting a job working at NBC as an intern and giving tours of NBC and later working in the publicity and marketing department. But as a kid, because we could not afford childcare, I would go out to work with her and hang out in the studio. And I got to watch Johnny Carson do The Tonight Show and Flip Wilson do The Flip Wilson Show and Freddie Prinze and Jack Albertson do Chico and the Man and Red Fox tape Sanford and Son. And I just went from studio to studio to studio waiting for my mother to get off work. And I thought, this is the greatest thing in the world. This is what I want to do with my life. I want to make people laugh and I want to make television. And I started being a stand-up comic when I was 14 and writing for Jimmy Walker alongside David Letterman and Jay Leno. David had just driven out from Indianapolis in a red pickup truck because he didn't think he was going to make it. Jay Leno was sleeping in his car because he didn't have a place to sleep. They were getting $200 a week to write jokes for Jimmy J.J. Walker from Good Times. I got $25 to sell him a joke. I quit my paper route because I was only getting half a penny a paper, and I had to throw 2 newspapers to make a penny. And I was really fortunate to do The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson when I was 18, the youngest comedian to do The Tonight Show with him. And it ended up getting me a show called Real People, which gave birth to reality shows. So I've been very blessed. It all started on a 2-week vacation to LA.
Right, impressive background. We all come from different perspectives in life, and certainly it sounds like your mom was extraordinary and gave you a really tremendous opportunity, and you're really quite lucky.
Thank you. And she still is. Thank God. She still is. Thank you.
Excellent. Kathy, could you introduce yourself and give us a little more background on how you got started in the industry?
Sure. Thanks for having me. Kathy Doyle, I oversee local investment for Magna Global. I, too, feel very blessed to be where I am and doing what I'm doing. I have no story compared to Byron's amazing story, but I did start out as a bartender at TGI Fridays while I was substitute teaching high school, and that, of course, naturally led into advertising, and had started at Leo Burnett in the accounting department and never looked back. Just perfect opportunities, great timing, and very blessed to work with some brilliant people that have helped me along the way.
That's great. Excellent. So you've obviously learned a lot over the years. Head of local investment at Magna is a big job, buying for a huge strata of clients in both TV and radio. If you knew now, if you knew then what you know now, what might you do a little bit differently in building your career?
Yeah, I can't think of a lot of things I would change. The one thing, perhaps, I was not as confident as I could have been when I started, and maybe being a bit bolder with my opinion and visions and things like that earlier on in my career would have been helpful. But truthfully, good times and bad times, I've learned something everywhere I've been, and I can't think of anything else I'd rather be doing. So there's really not a lot except perhaps be more confident when I started.
I personally can say that was true for me as well. And I probably should give a little bit of background. I actually worked in the oil fields after high school and then went to Berkeley and started Wall Street and became an investor before starting Wide Orbit. So it was also kind of an unusual background in having a couple of years and digging ditches before becoming more of a white collar employee, as they say. Byron, again, you had an incredible background and obviously being a comedian, you have to have a lot of confidence. You have to be willing to take a lot of arrows, and not every joke's going to do really well. But again, if you were going to kind of recast how you started, what might you choose to do differently?
Wow. I wouldn't change a thing. I'm really fortunate. I wouldn't change a thing. And I think, the best part is the journey. It's the journey. And when I think about, being a comedian and going on the road and opening for everybody from Lionel Richie to Kenny Rogers, the Pointer Sisters, Al Jarreau, Sammy Davis Jr., Gladys Knight, you name it, Sammy Davis Jr. I was really fortunate to go on the road to open for all of these people, and I lived with them on tour. Smokey Robinson. I mean, literally, there were very few people I didn't open for almost 20 years of my life. I lived on the road, and that helped me really see America and understand America and go to these little small towns and live in these towns a week at a time. That was an amazing experience for me. Then I went back and I did all these real people stories. And it was such an eye opener because America is not LA and New York. That's not it. And that's what a lot of people think, that, it's LA and New York. It's not. LA and New York's it's on the sides here. It's really what's in the middle of that. You have to get in there and truly know these people and know these neighborhoods and these communities. I've had the best experience as a comedian and also doing the type of show I did, Real People, and really understanding, how America thinks and how to connect with America. That's the best experience I've ever had, which is being a comedian. Every 5 seconds, I've had to make people laugh and get a response. And if I didn't get that response every 5 seconds, I wasn't connected with the audience. And that's helped me as a producer. It's helped me as an executive. It's helped me in everything I do because I have to be in tune. It was always me, a stage, and a spotlight, and a microphone. And if I didn't connect with that audience, I got booed off the stage. And let me tell you, after you get booed off the stage by 100,000 people, you learn how to connect.
No doubt. It's a quick learning, as they say.
Yeah.
So America's changed a fair amount in the last 30 years, and certainly media has changed. Way people are consuming media is dramatically different. So kind of what do you think the future of local media is? You made some significant investments in the Weather Channel and in television stations. Obviously, you have studios and production and syndication. So you have your hands in a lot of pots. How do you think that local media is changing? Because again, this is a local media audience largely. How do you think local media is changing in ways that you're trying to take advantage of, trying to help, trying to foster better audiences, and of course, monetize from that effort?
It's a great question. Local is everything. And the reason I own the Weather Channel is because a lot of so-called very smart people on Wall Street passed on the Weather Channel. They were concerned about the Weather Channel not continuing its carriage on cable. And what I said to them, these, so-called smart people on Wall Street, and thank God they passed on it, is you see a cable network, and it's not a cable network. It's really a technology platform that's super hyper local. What people didn't realize about the Weather Channel, and that's the reason I got it, is that the Weather Channel has 3,500 star boxes at the cable head ends. And that technology allows us to provide you your local weather in real time, geofence to your zip code. And what Wall Street didn't realize is that it's one of the few cable networks hardwired into the Pentagon as a matter of national security. So I knew that the Weather Channel wasn't going to get dropped. Now, I never took a tour of the Weather Channel until I owned it. We closed on a Thursday, and I walked in on a Monday morning, and they gave a presentation to me, the new owner's presentation. At the end of the day, they said, and oh, by the way, you own something called Local Now. And it's a streaming service that provides local news, weather, sports, and traffic in real time, geofence to one's zip code. And it's an investment where it's been millions and millions of dollars, and it's a technology stack that's proprietary to local now. And you're probably going to want to shut it down because it's losing 25 million a year. And I said, wow, you don't realize what you just said to me. You just said you invested nearly 100 million bucks to replicate this platform that does what local television stations do on the web. And it is an unbelievable platform. I think the mistake is you've been trying to get people to pay you 10 bucks a month for it. I'm not going to shut it down. I'm not worried about losing 25 million a year. I'm going to make it free. I'm going to make it an AVOD because I love the localization of it. No one can offer a streaming service with that type of localization. And I say, as a matter of fact, I'm going to offer movies, TV shows, documentaries, and concerts all for free. And that's what we're doing. And then we've invested 500 million in the last year or so to buy Big Four network affiliates. And we're on our way to investing $10 billion over the next 24 months to buy Big Four network affiliates to have access to even more localization, because that's the one place where I think the web is really weak. Everybody can go national and stream something to everyone, but no one can give you that streaming experience that's local, super hyper local. And we saw our local TV stations deliver as much as a 90 share, especially during COVID-19 and shelter in place, because people needed the information as to what was going on with COVID-19 in their communities and what was happening with hospitalizations and other issues, or even fires here on the West Coast. Local is everything, and local will live forever. And we are determined to be number one in local, super hyper local.
Important. COVID was effectively a storm, which of course you understand really well, the Weather Channel, how that impacts audiences. Kathy,
and look at global warming. So you're going to have more of that. And by the way, I hate to say it, I don't know Debbie Downer, but I think having these pandemics is going to be the new norm. I think we got lucky not to have one in the last 102 years. And as we are pushing, species and animals closer and closer to our food chain, we're going to have more and more viruses that's going to make us shut down. That's going to be the norm than the outlier.
Certainly, we have some challenges currently and ahead of us. Kathy, so you obviously are buying local, which BYRON and others are selling in scale. How do you think the consumption of video is changing the way you're buying as for the benefit of advertisers?
Well, it's definitely changing the way we're buying. And, as audiences shift and change and we get more data, and I was super excited to hear everything BYRON just said, because having that opportunity to have that local content at a level like that delivered that way is brilliant and awesome for us on the agency side. Taking our data, our clients' data, applying that to the content and hitting the right audiences in the right places is absolutely the beauty of local. And BYRON, I thank you for your leadership in that, because that's a big deal to us. It's we can do a lot. We've invested a lot of money in data and time in figuring out exactly who the right audience is, but if the content isn't there, we can't activate that way anyway. So it's a great step forward for all of us.
Oh, thank you.
Great. And Kathy, so you were just talking about how you try to capture audiences, obviously for the benefit of advertisers, which again feeds into local station ownership like BYRON and his cable properties and obviously syndication, et cetera, et cetera. How do you capture the information about the audiences and consumer trends? I mean, obviously you have research departments and so on and so forth, but how do you keep up to date on that? And what would you recommend that someone in the TVB Next program be doing to kind of follow trends and figure out how they're on top of what they should be buying?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is reading, the trades and talking to people and having good connections. And That's a big thing for people up and coming in the business. I would say do not be shy about reaching out to people you're interested in speaking with, because heaven knows we love to talk. So, I just feel like speaking to people and digging into our clients' business and what their needs are and how we can best convert what we do and apply that data and bring it to life for them is a learning experience every time we go to market for a client. I think COVID is a giant monkey wrench. I don't know, who knows what this all looks like on the other side of it. All anybody will say for certain is it doesn't look like anything like it did going in. So I think, and industry associations like the TVB are really helpful in keeping us up to date on trends and things like that too. So it's a lot of reading and networking and knowing the right people to talk to and to have these conversations to find out what's coming. And I'm fortunate enough to be a part of IPG that owns Axiom, that is, a huge repository of data that gives us a ton of insight. So very fortunate to have that in our arsenal as well.
It's a big property, no doubt about it. So, and specifically, what do you read as part of this? I mean, do you have specific trades that you particularly stay on top of?
Well, I think all the usual suspects, Ad Age, Ad Week. I like TV News Check. I read that a lot. And actually, I have somebody on my team that is a bit of a news junkie, and he compiles a lot of information for us and posts it on our SharePoint site. So it's, the sources can be anywhere when you have somebody brilliant like that aggregating it for you. So I'm very lucky.
Right. Yeah, excellent. And Byron, how do you keep yourself informed? Obviously you have a lot of information at your fingertips from your stations and nets, but also what properties, what other print or digital properties do you read to keep yourself informed?
I'm a news junkie, and that's something else I got from my mother. And I love to read, and I'm like almost 24 hours a day, I am forwarding stories to our staff all over the country. Whether it's, local now, or whether it's our television stations. We have something called the GRIO, which is an African American news and entertainment site, which has, we were happy this summer. We celebrated over 10.5 million monthly active users. When I bought it 4 years ago, it was just under 1 million monthly active users. And the first thing I did was invest heavily in the staff and said, I want you to put out more stories than anybody else, and I want you to broaden the stories. And so they're constantly getting probably 20 or 30 stories a day from me that I find. So, I'm always, I'm always going through and just reading everything, and I'm just searching and searching.
Interesting. I actually happened to trip across that website the other day. I was reading it literally yesterday. I didn't know you owned it.
The GRIO, is that right? What story were you reading there?
It was just background for another subject. But
there it is. See, I casting that wide net, and I brought you in, and that's why I said to them, I want you to really open it up and publish as many stories as we can.
Yeah, sounds good. You have been formidable and loud about making sure that media buyers are considering Black-owned media in their overall purchase of media, and minority ownership of media in general, trying to encourage other folks, other Black and minority folks to buy media properties. What can you tell the young TVB Next people who might not be considering right now that, oh geez, here when I'm 50x years old, I can maybe own media properties and not just work for someone else, but actually work for myself. What sort of thoughts do you have encouraging them?
Well, first of all, you're very fortunate. You're going to have a much easier time than I had. I had to really, I'll be 60 years old next year. So I dedicated most of my life to trying to get distribution. And I couldn't get advertisers to buy my advertising for, even today it's challenging. And the first 5+ years was all direct response. And if spray on hair and abs in 24 hours didn't exist, I wouldn't even be in business. I mean, that is how I almost ate, because in the early days, I I mean, I was literally skipping meals. They were turning off my phones. I would pay my mortgage every 90 days so I could pay my cameraman and my satellite person, and I could pay, to get my shows edited. And what I've said is, the very definition of systemic racism is not to have economic inclusion. And Madison Avenue has a horrible, horrible track record. And what I said is I feel that Madison Avenue and Madison Avenue's clients have a long, deep history of systemic racism because Black owned media does not exist. And we don't exist because Madison Avenue and Madison Avenue's clients did not include us economically. And so I said the only way to correct this is every client on Madison Avenue and everybody who's advertising needs to have a line item for Black owned media, that you will include Black owned media. And we can help you identify that. And why is that important? I had a guy say to me, ask me white guy, he says, well, why is Black owned important instead of Black targeted? And I said, well, you have a daughter, right? And I have a daughter and they're about the same age. And I said, how would you feel if I controlled all of media and I controlled how your white daughter grew up and saw herself and how the world saw her, and I controlled her self-esteem and how she thought about herself and how the world depicted her? Are you okay with me having that kind of control over your white daughter? And he said, no. And I said, well, why do you think I would have any level of comfort of you having that kind of control over my Black daughter, Chloe? And now that she's here, I'm not asking for a seat at the table, I'm taking it. And I'm going to be clear that I am going to shape her image and how she's seen and depicted around the world for her and other Black children. There's a big difference between Black targeted and Black owned. And the only way to fix this systemic racism is that Madison Avenue can't talk about it. They can't do the analysis paralysis because we can't deposit that in any bank. You have to say, we are going to do significant, meaningful business with Black owned media. We're not going to do tokenism just to get these people to shut up. You have to lean in. Or if you don't, then you're part of the problem. You're part of the systemic racism. And what I've said, and I have faith that folks can come to terms and do this. Unfortunately, when the Obama administration came to me and they said, hey, all these big companies are trying to get bigger, are they good corporate citizens? I said, do you want the real answer or the Hollywood answer? And they said, the real answer. I said, well, the real answer is not no, it's hell no. They spend $70 billion a year licensing cable networks, none of it going to Black owned media. And they said, well, everybody says that, but everybody's afraid to speak up. I said, I'll deal with it. And I said, but when I deal with it, I'm going to deal with it so it'll be done for once and for all. And I had to file $40 billion worth of lawsuits to get everybody to the table to do business with Black owned media. I hope I don't have to do that with Madison Avenue, but I am fully prepared to do it. And it's unfortunate. I mean, I literally, to deal with the cable industry, I had to put litigators on my staff and build an in-house law firm just to sue the cable companies and the satellite companies. And I'm probably, maybe not, I'll probably have to do the same thing with advertisers and ad agencies so that they understand it's important that we are to be included in the budgets. And if not, then we'll just go to court and litigate over it.
Yeah, well, absolutely. There needs to be more balance and fairness. It's just the way it is. And
a lot of people say it. A lot of people say it, but very few people do it. Easy to say, very few people actually do it. They say it's important. They say we want to do it, but the money equals nothing. And unfortunately, you're looking at the one and only Black person in America that owns Big Four network affiliates in 2020. Right? You can count Black owned media in one hand, not because people didn't want to do it, but because it was taken out by the systemic racism on Madison Avenue and their clients.
Well, here's wishing that things become more fair and balanced, and appreciate your efforts there and speaking up, as it's not an easy thing to do. Kathy, so certainly I should give you the opportunity to kind of speak to that. And obviously you're buying a lot of media, and this is maybe, I don't know, uncomfortable is the right word, but certainly speaking about it very directly is important. What are your thoughts on how you've seen changes at Magna, and certainly there's been lots of discussions on the subject.
Yeah, I think actually discomfort's part of the process that we all have to work through in these conversations. So I appreciate the opportunity to respond. And
Yeah.
I'm a ridiculous pie-eyed optimist. Everybody that knows me knows that. Byron, I sincerely hope you don't have to hire a single lawyer to make this happen. I think the timing, although way long overdue, has never been better to have these conversations. Awareness is at a level I've never seen it at in my career, and I really hope that you feel, at least from our agency, open doors and open conversations and see action in what we do. And I believe you will, but I totally understand for those partners, the proof is in the pudding, and it has to result in action. I hear you. I get it. I do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay. So Kathy, you should ask again more about, because again, this is a section on what young people within the media buying and selling community can do to help grow and further their careers. And certainly all the issues we were just talking about surrounding race are really important. And but in a more generic terms, what do you think people should be doing differently in their careers? Because the opportunities were different when, quote unquote, we grew up than they are today. What do you think people should be doing today to help improve their chance of attaining significant positions like you've earned and enjoyed for the last significant period of time?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it with our staff, a lot of the roles are changing to be less tactical and task oriented, to being more, as we increase automation and things like that on the buying side, being strategic, being a great negotiator, being a great communicator. Those are things that are more important than ever. Not that they weren't always important, but that is really how you're going to stand out in an automated world. We as an agency need to crank up the volume on those things that can help us stand out from the competition. And those are those things. If everybody's on an automated platform, that's a level set. What do you do on top of that to make yourself stand out? And that's what people up and coming in the business need to ask themselves and come to work every day with that mindset. And the other thing I would just say is, I really appreciate people that are brave and bold and not afraid to speak their mind and come up with solutions to problems instead of just complaining about problems. So that's definitely one thing I would say to people is, if you don't have the perfect solution, that's okay, but be thinking about what the solutions could be instead of just worrying about what the problems are.
Yeah, which really weaves well into the transition of linear scheduled media and how it's being consumed in multi-panel and pads and devices. How does Magna manage is managing that transition? Because it's like trying to figure out what a client wants to buy versus potentially where the audiences are being delivered, because there's very strong, engaged, really meaningful audiences in local. It rings the cash register, but I got to believe there's times when the client is like, yeah, but you should all be on YouTube or it should all be on some other digital form.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because our clients that do activate locally definitely see the benefit and appreciate the benefit of it. I think we at Magna are working to set ourselves up for a great transition, I hope, by moving to impressions, by applying data locally, all the work we've done on the automation front, all those are ways that we make local a more palatable and accessible solution for our clients. Being able to apply data is great. I think we still have a ton of work to do as far as audience informed buying and even audience based buying. Like, what does cross platform audience based currency look like? I don't know yet, but that is a big nut that we as an industry have to crack, and we need to crack it pretty soon. And then throw attribution on top of that party, and here we go.
Kathy, thank you very much. Really appreciate your participating in the TVB Next program. Byron, would you like to say a final thought?
We're just having fun. We're focusing on buying more ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox affiliates, and we just launched the Grio as an app, which is focused on African American news and entertainment, and it provides localization as well, and it's all AVOD. It's free, and I think advertising supported content is going to be, the best thing to happen to this country in a long time.
Well, all three of us believe in advertising, no doubt about it. So, again, thank you very much, Byron. Thank you, Kathy. And look forward to seeing you in person not too distant future.
You got it. Be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.